Hey, in the next scene, you can go bigger. You can go bigger if you want. You can do it. You can go bigger.
Next comic, give it loud for everybody for Anthony Eugenio. We're gonna have next comic. Very funny. Wayne Russell, everybody.
Welcome to the Open Mic Pain with Anthony and Wayne podcast.
Well, hello everybody, gobble gobble motherfuckers, and welcome. I'm sure you had a great time on fucking Thanksgiving, but we're back. We're back. We're bigger, but we're back in town, and we're here with a very special edition because we have somebody here that not only is a comedian, local, awesome in the Boston scene, also an actor, and I've seen his reel, and he can fucking dance. So that means he's a triple threat. And on December 14th at the Somerville Theater, you can see a variety show that he puts on for Albinism every year, which is fucking awesome. And I think that's going to be very cool. But give it up for our guest today, Dennis Hurley. How you doing, brother?
Hey, doing well. Hello, Open Mic Pain. Glad to be here. Am I being arrested?
No. Well, you will eventually after this podcast, most likely, because next we have our co-host here, who is a threat to nobody but himself, and that is Wayne Russell. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. That was pretty mild. I thought that was going somewhere else.
If killing yourself jokes are mild, we have hit the stone that we were trying to hit here. We've set the bar. What the hell? That's it.
Oh man. So Dennis, we're really excited to have you on. You had reached out to us, Jesus, probably a while back now, and yeah, I checked out a lot of your stuff, everything I could find, and I gotta say, I'm thoroughly impressed. You do some really cool shit.
I was young and needed the money. What can I say? Yeah, no, I discovered you. I think it was through social media. I think it was either Facebook or Instagram. Your show. I love the title, Open Mic Pain. It's such a great title, and I am South Shore, Boston native, born and raised, and yeah, I'm familiar with the Boston mic open scene for years. So it's great to be here.
That's awesome. As we start most of our shows with guests, I guess I'll start off with we had talked a little bit beforehand, and so you started off acting before you ever got on stage for comedy, right?
Absolutely. That's I want to be very clear about is there's so many different kinds of comedy, and I am not a pure stand-up. Some days I wish I were. You know, some people are going to see me on this show and like, what the hell is he doing there? No, get him out of there. No, it's because I know many who are purist stand-ups, and that's where they began. I began as a stage actor and a writer, and that's what I am first and foremost. I'm an actor and a sketch writer first, and a comedian second. And it's such an interesting thing because not that I work out too much. I liken it to strength training.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they're all different muscle groups. Like when I started out, I was like anyone who's fresh in comedy. I was like, I've been on stage before. I can do stand up. That's easy. The skills are 100% transferable. Nope. It's a whole different animal. It's like a whole different muscle group is what I mean. It's like what the instincts you use for acting, to me, they're almost completely different than stand up. And I learned that the hard way.
I think it definitely helps you though. I was watching the character you did on America's Got Talent, Herb Marple, right?
Yes.
And you had sent me a video, a full, I think it was like a 10-minute set you did. And I got to tell you, I've never seen somebody out and about where we are be so comfortable on stage. And we've talked about it before. I have a really hard time getting out of my comfort zone and doing silly things to get a laugh or this or that. So as you say, I'm kind of like a standard. I have my mic, I have my voice, and that's something I work on. But goddamn, Dennis, when you got on stage and just like everything you did, the physical comedy and the singing and everything it's really impressive. I think that background really helps you with the ability to get the laughs.
Oh, thank you so much for saying that. And also, yeah, so in a way I'm like the inverse of what you say, how you started. I started with character, with intention, with acting motivation, and I'll just give you a bit of background. Yeah, I started as an actor. I was like, I want to go be on stage. I want to be a movie star. From 2002 to '07, I was pounding the pavement in New York City. I was doing background work on Sex and the City and Law and Order, and by night I was in like Shakespeare. I was in like Neil Simon comedies. I was doing weird avant-garde black box plays that no one saw. That I think there were 2 audience members and a dog.
Sounds like the last show we did.
Yeah, we do a lot of those.
Yeah, so that was where I started. That as an actor, and that was, and then I ran out of money, like you do, and I moved back home to Boston, and it was there that I got into the improv scene, the improv sketch scene, and I realized this is more what I want to do. I love creating characters and crafting a sketch, and then about 2015 to 2020, I decided, well, I'm not getting any younger. I'm going to give LA a try. And so, similar thing, I used my acting contacts to get some auditions in the day. And then I joined a sketch team at night. And then kind of by default, I just, at night, stand-up was just something to do. And I just grew a love for it. And I really started to put an act together where I was just talking. And as you said, like acting and stuff lends itself well to stand up, but listening for those audience cues, I just realized, wow, this is a completely different animal than acting. And in some ways, some people say, and like I'm friends with a lot of great Boston stand-ups who are purebred stand-ups, like Rob Crean or Gary Peterson. And when I was asking for advice early, I remember some people were just like, well, you kind of sound like when I was early, when I was bombing completely at open mics, like you kind of sound like an actor who's doing stand-up.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So in a way, it was like those instincts of doing, of just talking to the audience. There was an air of just that instinct of being like that actor voice that takes over. And it's like, no, man, you should just got to get out there and talk about what you want to talk about. It's not so much a presentation as you really just have to bare your soul and connect with the audience as a stand-up. And that was something I learned early on.
A perspective
doing the
thing.
opening
That's a good point. Like for instance, when we do stand-up, I always try to liken it like I'm telling a story at a water cooler to people at work, and I really want to get their attention, tell a good story. With acting, is it kind of more you're putting a fourth wall in front of it, the type of effect, so you're not like there was a barrier in front of the audience that you felt with your performance in the beginning, and then you kind of worked your way out of that. That's the timing difference. Would you say that's what you had a problem with?
I think you're right. I think it's like the concept of the fourth wall. It's like you're asking, as an actor, you're asking the audience to suspend their disbelief. Whereas as a stand-up, you're just taking them, there's no fourth wall. You're just taking them in to your life. And as you said, Wayne, like early on, I found it so nerve-wracking, that the idea of just talking and listening to what the audience just thought of me and my just regular observations in life as an open micer, as a stand-up. So I created characters, much like you think of the late Jim Varney. He created that character, Ernest P. Worrell. Yeah. Or the late Paul Rubens as Pee Wee Herman. They created they came from an acting background, and they kind of created a meta character that's doing stand-up. So I was acting as a stand-up.
Mm-hmm.
So when I started to make that transition in the late 2000s in Boston, it was a rude awakening because I'm like, oh, this is such a different craft. And I do agree that some of the skills lend itself to it, but it's really a whole different animal. Like, do you know that comic Neil Hamburger?
I do not.
Yeah, that was a partial inspiration for Herb Marple. He kind of puts on a voice, puts on an act, but it's just it's such a different thing.
It's an intriguing concept to do that, because it's like, as a stand-up, the hardest part is having confidence in the shit that you say to people, because you're like, oh, I'm gonna say some real dark shit here. And when it's you saying it, like, this is me on the stage, you're like, they could judge me personally. But if you get, especially in the beginning, I'm sure it'll help with confidence to build a character first. And you're like, well, that guy's saying it. It's not me. Maybe I can put a lot more behind it because I'm not worried about the repercussions behind it. So that is intriguing. I would love to do that.
That is interesting. I have quite a few jokes that I would never say to somebody in conversation, but I have no problem saying it to a group of people staring at me on a stage. I don't know why that is.
Right.
But
you are yourself. I mean, you're a version of yourself.
Right.
Saying those jokes.
Yeah.
Like when I was starting out, I think I approached it as an actor, so it came off as fake. Have you ever seen the movie Punchline?
The Robert De Niro one?
No. It's Tom Hanks and Sally Field.
Oh, yeah. No, I haven't seen that one yet. I've been going through all the stand-up movies, and I just got to Robert De Niro. I'm going to go back a little to Tom Hanks, because Robert De Niro is somehow a later one. It kind of sucked. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to spoil anything, but yeah, Punchline, it's kind of the structure of the movie itself, the script is okay, but Tom Hanks acting as a stand-up, it just doesn't work. Because you can see him acting as a stand-up in the movie, and that rarely works. I find a couple years ago they tried a show on Showtime called "I'm Dying Up Here," and all the comics had the same critique of it. I'm like, oh, see, I told you I was being arrested.
Yep, now he's getting you.
That was me. My apologies.
No worries. John, I feel like the Predator was in the room about to laser blast my head off.
Yeah, he'll do that. He'll have all kinds of shit going on back there. You'll hear rattling and dogs and all kinds of crap. Sure, there's a bat or two gonna fly in and out of there.
But what was I saying? Yeah. I was just in the beginning. Since my skill as an actor, I was terrified of comedy, and I had I knew I could be on stage, but I had never just kind of put it out there and said, "Hey, I'm Dennis, and I'm just gonna sit here and talk and really kind of not kind of craft an arc of a scene in my head, but no, I have to really go off of how the audience is responding." And it's a different thing when you're kind of presenting a scene to an audience as opposed to stand-up, which is really more of it almost feels like a dialogue with the audience.
To go back a little bit, you had mentioned Tom Hanks it doesn't seem right because he's acting as a stand-up. I haven't finished the series, but have you watched Marvelous Miss Maisel?
Yes.
Was it Rachel Brosnahan, was it? I think was the actress. I have to say she was absolutely phenomenal. You would assume she was doing stand-up for years, just with her, the way she handled herself.
You were tit hypnotized, admit it.
The first episode, but I don't think they ever came back, so it had lasting power.
What? Jesus, yeah, I know, seriously. That was mega crack. And they were you'll come back forever.
I wouldn't say that I couldn't succumb to that. I mean, she's not bothersome to the eye.
No, not at all.
No. No, but that third season was bothersome to my fucking face because that was terrible. We're you know what we should do? We should make it not about stand-up anymore. And you're like, what?
Right. And that's I think that worked so well because it was such a different time in comedy,
Yeah.
right? Because like that era of comedy was all about was much more about storytelling. I thought.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
It just
Lenny
had
Bruce,
a
man.
very different. The Lenny Bruce. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny that there are so many different types of comedy in the stand-up world. I was just listening to today Jacques Lambert's podcast, Carnival Personnel, and he had Anthony when we went to the Luna Theater with the corporate comedian.
Yeah.
He had him on this week and discussed about how he started and this and that, and his realization that there are other types of comedians. You have your Stephen Wrights and you have your your Bill Burrs and you have all these different ways, storytellers and one-liners, and that's kind of an interesting thing to think about too, is like finding not just your voice but the way you want to tell jokes, which is really interesting thought.
Absolutely. There's so many different styles, and I started like many, like as an actor, I started with characters and impressions. That is one thing I find fascinating about comedy. There's some people who they're actors who do comedy, who do stand up, and who's somebody who is so good at both. It's so rare to me. Who's like a really good actor but also a great stand up.
Yeah, Eddie Murphy. That's it.
Well, I'm not going to say it because I got in trouble the last time I brought him up. But Bill Cosby.
Bill Cosby, yeah. Wayne's going to bring up Bill Cosby any chance he gets.
I mean, I guess he was he was an okay actor.
I really liked him in Ghost Dad, where he came through the phone. He's like, "Put the bitch on the phone." that just burned into my memory.
Wow, deep cuts! I didn't know we were getting into Ghost Dad today.
Oh my god! Dennis, you are going to be so disappointed by how he just went deep cut, and then the cut ends there. Like he's got nothing else. I think. Okay. What year is it? It was a year like I think 1989.
1990.
He stopped watching movies. Yeah, 1990. He stopped.
I see. Okay, so next we're going to dive into Andrew Dice Clay and Ford Fairlane, I assume.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one that comes to mind is David Cross.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like
Love
I
David
think
Cross.
I think he's a great stand-up, but also I think him as a sketch comedy actor, his work in Arrested Development, like
that was my first time ever realizing who David Cross was as Tobias, and I was just enamored by him. And then when I saw his other works, I was like, "Holy shit, that's a completely different person."
Exactly, he's able
fantastic.
to just make. He's like I said, like a muscle group. He's able to make that shift as like an engaging character actor, and then he just makes that shift, and he has such a specific point of view as a stand-up. I saw him live once at the Wilbur Theater about 10 years ago. He was fantastic, and he was so good. Like I liken myself to like. Did you see a few years back? I don't know. I think it was 5 years ago. Dana Carvey did a Netflix special.
No,
And
I don't
he's
think I saw
done-
that.
Yeah, he's done stand-up shows, and it's very clear when you watch it. You're not watching a great stand-up. You're watching like one of the best impressionists of all time.
Yeah.
But he's kind of doing stand-up, it feels like, because he can. Like, I'm not saying he's terrible, but that's just not his, his main thing. And that's kind of, like, I don't have aspirations to be, like, a major stand-up. Like, I'll always be an actor who dabbles in stand-up.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference. And it's just funny. That's what we're talking about right now. Is it's so rare that someone can be both. Like I guess because it's almost like a chicken or the egg thing. Like which came first? Like Robin Williams.
Yeah.
Like I was introduced to him as an actor, but then later I found his stand-up and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
I can't decide what he's better at. And like you said earlier, Eddie Murphy. Like he was on fire in the '80s. In like
I love Patton
every
Oswalt.
way.
You know, have you listened to Patton Oswalt's stuff?
Oh God, yes.
Yeah, like
Yes.
him,
And
and then his acting with he did Parks and Rec. He did the Star Wars filibuster, which I don't think they did the whole. I don't know if you saw that, where he did a full improv Star Wars filibuster to shut down a town council meeting. Is the greatest piece of acting I might have ever seen. It's so good.
I love his stand-up bit about Star Wars, about how he said he wished there was a world where, you know, the bit about Han Solo, how there was a short casting list
I haven't heard this one.
before Harrison Ford got the role. They were considering Burt Reynolds, and at the very bottom of the list, they considered Nick Nolte.
Oh my god!
And he's like, "Oh, you guys got to see it. I don't want to butcher it, but he's basically just saying like, I would pay to watch that. Like just him with his gut hanging out, like hungover, like, goddamn Chewbacca, why don't you fix the goddamn hyperdrive? Oh,
You know, it's actually while we're on Patton Oswalt, he has a bit about the Bed Who Eats People, the movie about that. I don't know if you've heard that one, but I've always wanted to ask an actor about it because it's probably one of my favorite stand-up bits of all time. And he says that making a movie is so hard and so complicated and puts so much effort, takes budget, all that stuff. And they got through a movie called The Bed Who Eats People. And it was literally a movie about like a lady lied on a bed and it would eat them on top of it. He's like, people had to go through pitch meetings. There were directors. Someone got fired. They spent 3 years writing the script. And I thought it was such a brilliant, like, because there's so much shitty movies out there. Have you ever worked on something where you're like, man, the effort on this is extremely high, but the quality of the output is extremely low? Was there any like production you ever been on that you felt that way?
that's a great question. It's like you can tell halfway through, like, this is going to get like 20 hits on YouTube. What am I even doing here? Well, at least there's donuts at the craft food table. At least there's maybe I'll hoard some of these gummy bears. Yeah. No, it is, and I've done everything from just like student films where, you know, people are rolling and they forget the sound was on to you know, major productions. So it's yeah. There are times where it's just like, okay, who bought tickets on this train? Why did I say yes? Why did I say yes? Of course, I won't say what it was, but yeah, there's been definitely things like that.
I feel that way whenever I say it all the time. Whenever I go to Jamaica Plain, because it takes me like an hour and a half to go there, and I put so much effort in, and I go.
You need a travel visa wherever you live. You need a travel visa.
You do
to Jamaica Plain, believe me.
And then you get there, they take your visa and they rip it in front of you, and they call you a homophobe, and you're like, "Damn it! I don't mean it. I'm just trying to be funny." Yeah, my jokes are like The Bed Who Eats People. They're like, how did you spend so much time, 2 hours down here in effort, and then you said that? But that's what it's all about.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny. Like, did you see Bobcat Goldthwait does stand up? He had a stand up.
He was just up here at the Wicked Funny Club in North Andover.
Like
2 or 3 weeks ago. Yeah.
And he's great. He's someone who did that transition. Like he like that the crazy voice he used to do was like that was like his big gimmick. That was his hook. But now he doesn't do it anymore.
Yep.
He just straight talks with the audience. And
that must confuse so many fucking people when they go over there. Like, come on. Yeah, imagine Gilbert Gottfried came out and he came out in his accountant voice that he had, like his real one, and he was like, "Hello, audience, how are you?" And you're like, "What the? Be a parrot? What are you doing?"
Did you ever hear the voicemail of him without doing his voice?
Yeah,
that's so
weird.
Me
too. Yep,
that's so weird.
It's freaky.
Yeah, when I die, I want them to play that voicemail in my ear as I'm fading, because that is just fucking. That's a dose of hell.
You know what's another weird one is Michael Jackson.
Ooh,
so
yeah,
his high pitched voice was not his voice. If you ever played,
get the fuck out of here! I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I'm gonna show my geekiness. But if you ever played the game on PlayStation 2, Ready to Rumble 2, I think it was.
Oh my god.
Michael Jackson was a character in there, and when he did the voice for it, he used his real voice. So it sounds like Michael Jackson just with a deeper voice. So if you want to hear it, you can go look up his lines from that game.
Yep. Goddamn
Oh,
pop
yeah.
culture reference, Wayne's got to come from some kind of cartridge.
Hey, we all put in our hours playing Moonwalker on Sega Genesis.
My favorite thing was I saw somebody put the character from Moonwalker into like Super Mario Brothers. And so it was Michael Jackson fighting Goombas. It's fucking awesome.
Oh man.
Oh shit. So I do want to come back to stand up a little bit, but
Yeah.
We were just talking about different shows and things you've been on. I was really curious because some of the things like Superstore and your Justin Timberlake music video, and am I not mistaken? You were in Hubie Halloween as well.
Yeah, but I was cut. I was thrown on the cutting room floor.
Oh, really? All right.
Yeah. But it was so fun to go there. No, that was surreal. Like I was home. I was living in LA at the time, but I was home for a couple things, and the casting office called and said, "Hey, we need you for a day. We want you to be they want you as the crazy guy in a straitjacket in the insane asylum." And I'm like, it's like a day rate of a day player. And I'm like, all right, dude. And so I went up to Tewksbury and I got there and, went in the trailer and they're like, hey, they want to see you first to rehearse. And I get up there and it's Adam Sandler and Ben Stiller.
Oh my God.
And they both I meet them both in the matter of seconds and like, hey man, what's going on? Hey. And I'm just like, oh my God. I just tried to play cool, like, hey, yeah, what's up? And I'm like, these are like two of my biggest heroes I'm standing in front of right now. Because Ben Stiller reprises his role as Hal the Orderly from Happy Gilmore in Happy Halloween.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
and
fucking awesome. And you were in the scene with him doing that character?
I know, yeah.
Wow.
I was so excited, too. He's still in it as Hal for a second, but they cut the whole, like, patients wandering around scene that I was in. And
did you get a copy of that at all? Or?
No, it's gone. It's all good. Sometimes, I mean, if this were still the era of DVDs, maybe it would have made like a bonus feature. But this is the best part: is like between takes, Sandler's like producing the movie, and Sandler's just wearing t-shirts and shorts,
as he does,
and he comes up to, and he just comes up to me and gives me notes, and he's just like, "Hey, in the next scene, you can go bigger. You can go bigger if you want. You can do it. You can go bigger." Yeah.
I'm going to stop you real quick. I was going to ask you if you had an Adam Sandler impression, and I'm glad you did it.
Shabba-doo, shabba-hoo. Oh, I mean, like, and he was talking to me, and I was processing it, and I was nodding, and I was like, in the back of my head, I'm like, I just wanted to tell him, like, do you have any idea how many times I've listened to your comedy CD back in 1993 when I was in high school? Like, literally the whole weekend that came out, that's all my friends and I did. We just sat Friday through Sunday. We just listened to They're All Gonna Laugh at You. Like, that was my era. That was funny. I was on a sketch recently. Sorry to interrupt you, but I was in I was with all, like, I was doing a film sketch, and people were like, had their YouTube videos and watching the digital shorts from SNL, and they're like, "Oh yeah, this was great," and I clued them into like old parody commercials from the early '90s on SNL, and they were like, "Oh, this is hilarious! This is great," and I was like, "Yeah, it's." And I just thought back. I'm like, I'm showing my age here, but like back then, like 1991, 92, like you watch a sketch on SNL, you're not going to see it again at all until it's on in a rerun, and you might not even see it then. And the kids I were acting with, like kids, they were like 21, 22, and they were just like, you mean you couldn't just pull it up? And I'm just like, no, it was gone. it was all in the hands of the NBC, and we couldn't watch it. Yeah, and I was just like, yep. And that was my heyday. Those were my guys. Were the Sandler, Farley, Spade.
Did you at least bring like an elderly lady to have Ben Stiller beat the shit out of or something? So you at least get that out of it. So you didn't have...
Oh, I wish. Yeah.
I as I mentioned before on the podcast, I'm a salesman, so I do a lot of driving around. At the end of last year, I was asked to train one of my coworkers as an outside sales guy. And at the time, he had just turned 21. And he knew Adam Sandler from, Big Daddy and Happy Gilmore, Little Nicky, all that stuff. But he didn't know anything about the CDs. So we spent probably a week listening to Toll Booth Willie and Fatty McGee and the severe beatings of. And I don't think I've ever seen somebody laugh so hard. Like he must have had me replay The Talking Goat like every day for a week straight. It's
so
such good
when
shit.
You think about it too, that he would do shit like that. Like think about like all of those like audio sketches that he did were like they're timeless. Like to this day, that will never end. People knowing those references that he did. That seems like he just put a tape recorder on a table with his friends and just screwed around. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's incredible. Especially I think it was pre SNL.
No, it was while they were on SNL. It was '93 that came out. Wow. Yeah, and they joined all those gang joined in 1990, I believe. But you're right in that it's rare. Like I can't think of anyone else who really does that. Like audio comedy sketches. Yeah.
Yeah, early Jimmy Fallon, I
guess. Right, he had a CD but that was mostly songs, right? Which Sandler does too, of course. But
yeah, did you see his 100% Fresh special a few years ago?
Oh yeah.
That was so good.
Oh god, I can't get through the Farley song without getting emotional.
Yeah, no shit. That is that you couldn't ask for a better tribute to a friend and an actor.
Oh, yeah.
So what's worse? Here's a great question. Bombing in front of a director, bombing in front of an audience. What's the worst?
That's a fantastic question.
Oh, that's a great. Yeah. Bombing at an audition, it's hard to tell sometimes. Because bombing at an audition, sometimes they're kind of half listening and half writing things down. And they've been through and they've heard the materials like over and over again. I'd say bombing at a comedy show is worse.
Really?
Because like you guys said in your first episode, it's like you build it up in your mind. You're just like, all right, this is it. I got the punchline. I have the perfect phrasing for this punchline. And when you hear those crickets, it's like you've been rejected by a girl, like flat out.
9 months later, you would think that we would not have the same problems, but God damn it, do we still do the same shit?
Oh man, yeah. And if it's like a director of a show, they give you notes and stuff. You're going to get notes, and you're going to at least hear how the the bad performance hit. They're like, Dennis, you got to change this, you got to change this. But open mics, it's just repetition. You just have to get out there and do it and tweak little things. It's about nuance, and every audience is different, which is kind of what I love about it. Is like every audience you encounter is going to be different, but that deafening silence, that's definitely harder than notes from a director. Yeah.
This week's episode of Open Mic Pain is brought to you by Little Caesars.
Did your family huddle around you all the time being worried that they're going to play some kind of music that's going to set you off and you're going to have a terrible seizure where they got to make sure you don't swallow your tongue? Well, we're here with Little Seizures, a pill that you take for $5 only. $5, you get the pill. Your seizures will not go away. Definitely won't go away. But they will be small. I promise you. There will be no other times when you will have to fall on the floor in a supermarket and break the dill pickles. We will make sure that you stay upright and fine for the case of $5. So please come to us today. Little Seizures Pizza.
Little Caesar's pizza. Caesar. I was kind of thinking about this today because we did Anthony and I were both part of a show on Saturday, and it was kind of loose on the time. It was, do 5 to 7 minutes, see how it goes. If you get some chuckles, keep going, whatever. And when I recorded it and I listened back, and because of the leniency that we had, I feel like I told my jokes a lot different than I normally would have. I didn't, I kind of had more pauses. It just didn't seem the same intonation. Is that the word I'm thinking of? But the way I said it wasn't the same because I just felt like, okay, I have pretty much all the time in the world with respect to other comics.
The cadence is what you're looking for there.
So I didn't have the same cadence. And I feel like that's kind of similar to like acting, where the way you say something could completely change how it comes across to the audience. Which leads me to believe I'd be a shitty actor because I could never do anything twice the same way. But
yeah, you're right. It's a dance you're doing with the audience. You're just kind of, it's like tetherball. You're just ping ponging it. Like, oh, what do you think of that? It's like it kind of informs the next way you do things. Like sometimes I'm sure you guys too have, like, halfway through a set, you're just like, oh, there's no way I can do this next bit. There's no way they're gonna like it. I'm just gonna scrap it. Well, I'm really bored, and I'm just like, I don't care whether this audience likes me or not. I'm just gonna do it.
Oh, I bail on bits all the time. Wayne never bails on bits. He white knuckles into the eyes of very angry people.
Except where were the other night, and I completely just dropped it. I was like, nope.
Oh yeah, you said that was the first time you ever did that. Yeah. We've had some tough ones.
Yeah, it's been a rough month.
It has. Yeah, we're hitting a good grind. We're gonna definitely have to do another bombs episode, which sucks to have to do another one so quickly.
Yeah.
But we're racking them up.
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, that's how you learn, right? You have to bomb. Yeah,
I'm sure acting's the same way, where there are just patches where you can't do anything right and you can't get any job, and then you go like a whole month where you're just getting stuff all the time, and you're like, yeah, I'm the greatest there ever was. This is gonna be the only thing I ever have to do. And then you take your set.
Yeah, it's like when it rains, it pours. Sometimes it's like I've gone 6 months without anything, not even a callback to an audition, and then 6 months later, it's like, oh, I've got two things. I've got like a Little Caesars commercial audition, and then I have to get over to Santa Monica for a sitcom audition. Yeah.
Do you do any voice work too, like animated stuff at all? Or?
Little bit. I've done. I was employed. Do you remember there's a magazine in like grade schools called The Weekly Reader?
That does not ring a bell for me.
Yeah.
Lawrence Public Schools. My magazines were in Spanish.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but we had nothing in English, unfortunately.
Yeah, they were just like really basic magazines, like penguins migrate at this time of the winter, and it's just like little fun facts for kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I was the voice of The Weekly Reader for half a year, so that was a good gig.
Oh, nice.
I know what you're talking about, actually, because now that you think, sometimes they would do like a whole shark edition of the book, right? Where they would, yes.
Yeah. So there's little things like that, but no, I haven't really broken into like mainstream voiceovers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd love to, but yeah.
Do you think that's harder, or do you think it would be harder?
It feels like it's just like any kind of part of acting. It's like a niche market. It's just like very specific, and like a lot of the jobs are already taken.
Yeah,
and it's like about who you know. You just have to have connections. That's what it seems like.
I think
I imagine it's
stand-up's
a lot
that
like
too.
doing like a fucking Marvel movie, where like it's the great thing about regular acting is imagine bouncing off of another person and trying to get energy off of them, and you get like realistic flow in the conversation. Where voiceover, you're doing your lines to yourself, kind of like in a Marvel movie where they're like doing it to tennis balls and shit, and they have to like act around that, which I'm sure is a little bit harder to get
Right.
an emotional response out of it.
Right. Right. Yeah, like Bob Hoskins for Who Framed Roger Rabbit. He
Oh,
should have
yeah.
had an Academy Award having to act with all these pieces of paper that were supposed to be cartoons.
I know.
Yeah,
Sure,
where's his
Gandhi does
Academy
those
Award?
cartoon tits properly, I tell you.
Oh, hey,
They must have
oh
some
my
huge
God.
tennis balls there.
Yeah. Between Jessica Rabbit and Kim Cattrall in Mannequin, those are my first movie crushes, I think. Wow, yowza.
Yeah, damn right. Spilling the seed for the fucking rabbits and fucking car. That was crazy back then. That was like the first whatever they call AR now, whatever you could put like Pokemon Go, where you could put shit in the room. Like when they had Jessica Rabbit in with the regular people, and you're like, God damn, that was one
Yeah,
of like
right.
that and Casper.
Those are the early days. Where it was they were still kind of figuring it out. Exactly. Yeah. Oh man.
What would you give advice for somebody that like because we give advice to people who want to start stand up? What would you give advice to people who want to start acting? Like, what would your first steps be? Do you think going to LA is an essential part of the piece?
I'd say the best piece of advice I got is like figure out exactly what you like about it. Like what genre you like, what medium you like. Because I love acting itself. It was a lot of fun, but I got to say like I got kind of burned out doing plays, Shakespeare, things like that. And it took me a while to figure out what do I really want? Like, I want to do sketch comedy. I want to be the guy in the comedy movies. Like, I wanted to be the next Bill Murray, Steve Martin Short. Like, that's what I really wanted. And if I could go back and, like, instead of 4 years of, like, studying acting, maybe I would have done 2 years and then studied at the Second City or someplace like that where it's comedy focused. So it's like figure out what, because there are actors like that. They get stuck. They get stuck in like doing the same. There are people who get stuck doing the same like Hello Dolly every year at a community theater, and they wonder why they're miserable. I'm like, maybe this isn't what you want to do, and to bring it back to stand up too. I think there are people who kind of do the same material every time, expecting a different result. When it's like either maybe you're meant to do acting, or maybe you just don't want to come up with material. Maybe you just want to do impressions and be like a Vegas act. You know, figure out what you love about it specifically. That's the best advice I could give.
That's great advice. It's like the stand-up equivalent would probably be like finding your voice in stand-up, where you're like, you got to figure out what your style is going to be. Because in the beginning, because my favorite comics like Louis C.K., older Tom Segura, like the storyteller style stand-up, even though Louis got some shortened bits in there, but still a lot of storytelling. And I realized as I'm going, I love shorter jokes, like not so much Stephen Wright style that short, but I love something that's like a minute to a minute and a half long where you get a misdirection in there. Ends up just being my favorite part of it. And I never thought that would be the case, but the longer you go, the more you kind of funnel in what you want to do. Same thing, I'm sure, with acting. You know, it just took time, but you found out what you want. We wanted to do a sketch show forever, so we're going to need your consulting help when we get going on that.
Hey.
To be like, we'd love to have you on too. That'd be awesome.
Oh, please. That's my bread and butter, man. I love sketch comedy is my favorite thing in the world. I'll easily say that. It's my top favorite thing.
It seems like so much fun. It's definitely something we've kicked around. We have a few ideas for some sketches, but we actually have to sit down
Justin
and actually start writing
Jacques
stuff.
have Dennis on there, but we would have a real powerhouse here.
Sure would.
Hey, awesome. You have all my information, as they say.
Yeah, definitely.
No, but back to your point, like finding your voice, it's so important. It's and it, even if you like what you said, Tom Segura, Louis C.K., they have a very distinct style of kind of sucking you into like their world, and they take you on this journey. Whereas, like, I can enjoy them, but I also loved Rodney Dangerfield.
He's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And he was like, they likened him and his style to more like a boxer, because he was just like, oh, how about this, and then set up punchline. And it was like rapid fire. It was like, and that's such a different style than what you said, like Tom Segura or Louis C.K. But they both make you laugh.
That's been my biggest, out of everything that's happened so far to me in stand-up, I think the biggest surprise I've had is the appreciation I have for different types of stand-up that I didn't think I'd have. Like, I never thought I would see someone like Stephen Wright do those shorter jokes, and like, because that wasn't my style of liking before, but now I'm like, man, for you to be able to take that short section, 15 seconds, and get a punchline that takes a normal comedian 2.5 minutes to get to, super impressive. Also, like, clean comedians. Never listened to many clean comedians going. And then to see, like, Wayne went and saw Steve Bjork the other night with Mike Katrobis and one more. Steve?
Chris Zito.
Chris. Oh, yeah. There you go. So they did, I'm not calling them clean comedians, but they, you know, their stuff leans on the cleaner side, and they absolutely murdered the theater. So there's such an appreciation that I've gained over time to just the art of being able to do it. Like, I don't care. Go get a laugh any way you can get a laugh. Like, I like darker stuff generally, but now I'm listening to everything.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Like, dirty, clean alike. I like them both. There's in terms of clean, there's Nate Benghazi and Jim Gaffigan. But also I love like Dice Clay and Bob Saget, who was filthy.
The thing I love about Dice, and I think every comic should strive for this, but Dice's jokes are like, and I've said it before, like, good comedy is like a good song. His jokes are literally like a good song. When you have an audience repeating back your nursery rhymes, god damn. I do it in the office every once in a while. Luckily, I've never been fired for it. But, you know, if it gets a little too quiet, every once in a while I'll just turn around and go, Jack and Jill went up the hill, both with a bucket and a quarter, and then somebody will just finish it in the back of the office. And it's, like, I love that type of... I love the fact that he got to that point where his material was so iconic that he would have a theater repeating it back to him like they were singing, like, Born to Run or something, you know?
I think it's because he's unapologetic. That's why. That's really the biggest thing that I have been trying to learn is when you do bluer stuff like we do, if you don't go in there and unapologetically deliver the material out there, you are going to look, that's how you look like a dickhead. Because when you're trying to do a joke that you want to do that's a little dangerous and on a dark, like I have a joke where I do, I'm trying to fit in about Chris Hansen to Catch a Predator is like the punchline at the end of it. And if you say that unconfidently, if you get there where you're like, huh? They're going to fucking hate you. You look like such a dickhead because they know that you know it's wrong that you're saying it, so you shouldn't be saying it. But if you go out there and you're like, no. In this, like, you're going to suspend your disbelief and I'm going to pitch this to you like I believe it. I feel like the jokes always go over so much better.
That's right. It is. It's about confidence and owning your bit. And sometimes it's a confidence in owning it, but it's also, it's the nuance. Like, I think what made Dice work so well is he had a personality. He had a cadence, a rhythm that you said was very musical, and he ate that up. He loved the audience doing it back to him. Where I think there are people who aren't really like showmen like Dice Clay, who really want to get into new bits and explore new bits. Like, I'll never forget this story about Dave Chappelle, about how it was kind of a double-edged sword. Like, he started as a stand-up and he loves doing stand-up and he does bits, but his sketch show, the Chappelle Show, got so big that at some of his shows after that, like people in the audience were like yelling, like they were like, "Do Rick James," and for him it would piss him off because he didn't want that kind of chanting from the audience. He wanted to explore new bits, and he eventually got out of that. But that show was like the Chappelle Show. That was iconic in the world of sketch.
I think
These
that
are
was
the problems people have later in life where they're like, man, people like me so much that they yell stuff I don't want them to yell at the shows at me. Like now I'm like, man, I just want people not to hate me.
It's funny. I say it at my day job all the time. Like when I first started, I go around with my boss. And my boss has been in the business for a very long time, and everybody loves him. And we'd go into some of the customers that I were taking over, and in the beginning they'd still call him. And for the longest time, I was like, man, I wish they would just call me. I was like, just call me. I want to be the guy. And now they all call me. I'm like, will you stop fucking calling me? Can you like just call, call the office or something?
Do you even work here anymore?
Yeah, exactly.
Wayne? Yeah. It's like it's so interesting. Just like when I started, I was like you were talking about earlier. I was kind of felt like I had to keep the pace up. Like I gotta pick it up. Like I'm an actor, like learning cues. Whereas now, like I'll be clear, like the first 10 years I was terrible. I ate it on stage. I was like, I maybe tried one joke, like one new original joke, and then I was like, all right, who likes impressions? And then I would go into impressions because I felt like that was my crutch. That was like my I'll buy that for $1. That was my like catchphrase at the end kind of thing. But the more I've only gotten comfortable where I have an original about 10 to 15 minutes in the last 5 years. And the first time I did stand up was 2005. So there was a good 10 to 12 years where I was just trying to find my voice. And now I feel like I have finally have a point of view, but it takes a while. It takes a long time.
That's awesome. We've only done collectively one impression. Remember? Do you remember the one I did, Wayne, in the history of stand-up that we've done?
Yeah, Stephen Hawking having an orgasm, I believe.
Yeah, that was...
Can I hear that?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
Or is that on an episode? I should
Nope,
seek it out.
It's not an episode. We do have it on film.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I basically just said that he would hammer. I just said he went like W, and and I kicked my legs out when he did that. It's a W, but I'm not saying I can't commit. That's why the joke didn't work. I was like, I shouldn't be doing this.
I don't know. I was laughing my ass off.
W. I like it.
Because it hurts. That's why I said that was the last
That
line.
took
I
me a
said.
second. Yeah. Oh, now I'm going to fall asleep picturing that tonight.
Yeah, that was another indication of when a host said, hey, if it goes well, keep going. And I was like, see, the problem is when I plan it, it might go well. And then you put me in the stuff where I unplan it and I do orgasm jokes. Like, that's my fallback.
Just so you know, the next 5 jokes are going to be orgasm jokes. Just so you people know.
My wife told me every orgasm I ever had was a joke. So,
and then you talked about it on stage.
Uh-oh. Trouble in paradise. Have you guys ever done the Burren in Somerville?
we did.
Yeah.
Anthony almost won.
Oh, hey.
Yeah, almost.
Almost. Congratulations.
I lost
Talk about open mic pain.
See, I was going to say it.
Talk about open mic pain.
Yeah.
But this is before I found my voice. This is when I was still really bad. But I at least had a good 5 minutes. So I went to the Burren, and my friend, it was either Steve McConey hosting or Rob Crean was subbing in. And I had it ready. I still had that nervousness because stand-up's not my main thing. but the few people went up, and I was like, okay, all right, I think I'm feeling this audience. I think I get the vibe of the room. Guess who walks in? And they say, hey, we got to let him do a set because he just walked in. Is Gary Goldman.
Oh, wow.
And he went up, and he did like 10 minutes. And he destroyed. And they're like, okay, Dennis, you're up. And I'm like, but no. And they're like, wait, no? Do I have to follow Gary Goldman? Because he was like a master. So I went up after him, and I was like, oh. And I bombed pretty hard. But he's like, have you guys ever seen him?
Not live, no.
No, not live.
Oh, yeah. Dude. He's a Boston guy originally. And like he was already established when I first saw him. And he is a master at dealing with hecklers.
Oh, I love that.
He is so vicious. Like he comes across as like nice and like, you know, he's got that kind of edge to him. He's got that depression thing that he talks about and stuff. But once he senses a heckler, he knows exactly how to push their buttons. Like there was this group of girls just talking once at the Burren, and he's just like, hey, least pretty of the three girls, shut the fuck up. And like, and I looked over at her. She was so pissed. Like, and
See, that's a lot of comics talk about not wanting to follow somebody great like that performs. I can understand it. It's the weird thing about it though is so at the Burn, Dan Cronin opened the show, and he was kind of trying new shit, and he didn't really he didn't blow the house down or anything like that. So that wasn't effective. And Casey Crawford was there. Similar effect. It was a tough night, tough crowd, all that. But one time, Steve Bjork went on before me at a show, and the crowd was super dead. And then he went up, and he was so fucking awesome. But it was in a way that benefited me, because I was right after him, and everybody ate shit right before him, and I was like, oh, man, we're about to eat shit. And, like, he brought life into the stadium. The stadium, the fucking Winter Circle. He brought life into the Winter Circle and allowed me to go up and have an ability to go through. So I've, if Eddie Murphy went up, I'd be like, oh, shit, yeah, it's going to be a good set now. And then I would completely eat absolute balls afterwards, but it hasn't happened. So far, it's only been a benefit. How'd you do?
Well, that's interesting. I wish I could do that now because I feel so much more comfortable. But then I was still a little insecure. But that's interesting. Like that can happen. Like a comedian. What you're saying is like the comedian. He resuscitated the room.
Yeah.
The energy of the room was back, and so they're like, "Oh, okay, I just remembered we're at a comedy show, and now we're going to listen to this guy." So you felt like they listened to you more than those people that ate shit before you.
I think it's a host thing too, because I feel like that's the job of the host is to revitalize the energy in between each act. Since they're all kind of going to be all over the place, you have to keep it at a level where you can perform. It's like it's driving a fucking Formula One car, and it's sometimes if a host is bad, you show up and it's like a cardboard box, and you're like, well, I can't really do anything with that now. And you go up there and you still got to drive it.
You're so right. That's like an art in itself, is hosting.
Yeah, I've said it before. It's sort of like we see it in. I mean, open mics. I mean, I guess it could be construed as a little different. But if you're hosting a show or you're even an open mic, if you have a guy that goes up and absolutely kills, don't go up and do 3 to 5 minutes in between. Just keep going. Give give all the other stand-ups an opportunity to ride that wave. And you see it all the time. There'll be 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes in between each comic sometimes. But I think what a host should do is keep it going, and then if somebody goes up and bombs, then maybe do a few minutes, try to win the crowd back, and then give the next comedian a chance to ride that wave of energized crowd.
That's a great point. Like, momentum is a thing. Like, momentum can be killed. Like, I've seen shows where it's just off to such a great start, and then a really slow comedian can just kind of kill the energy. Like, there's someone who like the show I'm putting on this year. That's kind of what my goal is to just keep the ball in the air. Like, okay, here's a cool comic. Now I want to show a video sketch without too much lag time in between, which is kind of a skill. That's hard to do if you're doing like a multimedia show and you're trying to you have an act like. It's like a buffet. It's like there's the audience is going to like a certain thing, and they're not going to want to scoop into this thing in the buffet. It's really hard. It's kind of like a magic act almost.
I'm really excited for that. I think I'm going to go to that myself, and that sounds like a really cool show.
Yeah, I'll try to make that as well.
Yeah, please. It's fun.
Who do you have on that show? I saw Allison Diane's hosting. Or is it her hosting? Or
yeah. I'm hosting.
You're hosting.
And
she's just doing time?
Allison Diane's there. I've got Peter Liu. And I've got Tookie Kavanaugh. And I've got Uzier.
Malik?
Yep. He's going to be there.
Yep. We saw him at the Luna last month. Yep.
Yep. And Doug Fitzgerald. We've got a good mix of comics. And then I've got some old sketches that I did. And some short videos. Yeah, that's kind of a lost art, is variety.
It really is. That was really big back in the day.
It's hard to do, though, because sometimes I feel the energy. Like, I've seen it. I've been to shows like in New York and L.A. where it's like a mix. It's like, all right, we're going to have a stand-up, and then we're going to have an improv act, and then a sketch. And you can kind of feel it in the room when, like, the people who just thought it was going to be a stand-up show, they're like, oh, no, now we have to sit through this shitty improv set where where you don't even know if it's going to be funny or not, which is fair.
Yep.
But it's like, some people aren't all as open-minded. They just like the kind of comedy they like, and it's
true.
Yeah.
You said,
so if you're going to have a variety show, make sure it's good. Make sure all areas are good at what they do, and then maybe you have a better chance of success. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
You said you did you were in improv groups in classes and stuff?
Yeah. I mean, sketch was my main thing. I was in 2 sketch troupes at ImprovBoston back when they had their space. And we did like sketch nights there and sketch variety shows. I did a little bit of improv. I do love seeing a good improv show. I think it's one of the hardest mediums of comedy. In some ways, I feel like it's harder than stand-up, just because.
Certainly.
I would say
it's so hard because you can get into a slump so easily, and then the audience wants to like you, but the whole room can tell it's just not going well, and it's almost like pulling teeth. It's like painful to watch bad improv to me.
Yeah, that's something I've always wanted to try, was do like an improv class and just try it. I don't know that I would be good at it. This is my problem with improv, I think, for me, would be, I think you would go towards almost like obviously you're familiar with The Office. We chatted a little bit about that. But when Michael Scott was in the improv group and he kept his go-to line was, "I have a gun." Like I feel like people are going to have, or for me anyways, I would have go-to jokes in certain situations. So I would continually go to those same themes. And I think trying to work your way out of that thought process would be really difficult. I'm not saying it couldn't be done, but I think that would be difficult.
It is. It's like you have to, like, 1, be funny, and then 2, be a really good listener. Like you have to kind of see what your teammates bringing to the table and kind of try to build on that. And and the bad improv is where they're really not listening to each other, and they're just kind of, there's ego. It's like an ego battle. Like, no, I'm the funnier one. No, I'm funny. It's like. It's like when a bad comedy movie doesn't work. It's like when it's just a battle of egos.
We should make an improv group that's just depressing shit. Doesn't have to be funny. We can just try to depress people.
Yeah, man, just turn a camera on your daily life. You'll fucking improv the world with depression.
Now we're going to do a scene about how we're all going to die someday.
Exactly.
Because we are. Let's not forget. We are going to die.
Today we check if my dick works again. Nope. Day 67.
Good night, everybody. Yeah, I did we did an improv show. This was a funny combination. we had a run of we did a Back to the Future themed improv show where we asked the audience to go to a time period. And as you could probably tell, I was Doc Brown. Great Scott, 21 gigawatts.
That was fantastic.
The only thing that'll save us is a bolt of lightning. A bolt of lightning. So the thing, this is interesting. This ties into open mics because it was at an open mic show that I realized through a bit he was doing. Rob Crean, I found out he did a Marty McFly. He did a Marty McFly, Michael J. Fox impression. And so we just did that, and it kind of worked. It was fun. It was like we just did it ran, I think, 2011, 2012. We did a kind of a month-long set of shows. It was fun.
Did he have like did he do the Parkinson's? Did he get into it? Because that was he was just starting Parkinson's when he got that one.
This is messed up.
We actually, in rehearsal, we actually got into that, and we were like,
do you Parkins?
Maybe we shouldn't do that. It's like, yeah. That's
no,
the
you
best
don't go
thing.
too crazy.
Have you ever seen, you know Charles Grodin, the actor?
Yes.
That was the best story I heard. When he died, like, I was like, oh, I loved him. He was such a good actor in movies, and his deadpan delivery was like that of like Norm Macdonald and Fred Willard. He was in kind of that wheelhouse. And I guess on Michael J. He was a guest on Michael J. Fox's failed sitcom, The Michael J. Fox Show. Mm-hmm. And I guess they did a take. And Charles Grodin was like played like his uncle or something, and they're sitting on the bench, and they do the scene. And once the camera wrapped, or they wrapped that scene, like Charles Grodin leans over and he goes, "Hey Michael, can we do it again, but without the Parkinson's?" And Michael shared that story on his Instagram, and I was like, "Oh, that is only he could get away with that. That's amazing."
I think this is taken down, but did you guys ever go to michaeljfoxnews.com?
No.
It was essentially foxnews.com, but the whole screen just shook. That was a real
Oh
thing.
my God!
They took it down, I think.
Wow.
I don't think it's there anymore, but yeah, that is talking about meta.
I can't believe I hadn't heard of that. That's crazy.
I think you're allowed to make fun of Michael J. Fox's Parkinson's only because they did it on Curb Your Enthusiasm, where he was super loud upstairs. It was basically
That
like
was great.
I might be misremembering, but I think Larry David was underneath him and Michael J. Fox
Yep.
was above him, and he was super loud, and he was like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Parkinson's."
Yep. That was like it lent itself perfectly into a Curb episode. It's like, that's my beautiful excuse. It's like, oh no, I wasn't playing the violin. It was Parkinson's. I wasn't doing the violin gesture. Like, no,
Yeah, you got to read how the person reacts. Like Nate, we put his name in the description before because I couldn't remember his last name. Still can't. But Nate, bam. So Nate is awesome, and he had a stroke, and he had a stroke, and then he made an awesome joke about it. So I was like, great. So when I went up, I said, I'm glad he said my name right. So now I'm glad that he's alive, and that was the joke that I said in the beginning. And it got a great pop, and that was because he broke the barrier with it. But if I was like, look at this fucking guy with this stroke all over the place over here, and he didn't say anything about it other than like the room knew he had a stroke, wouldn't go as well. See, he's got it really, really depends how the person opens himself up to it.
It's true, and they're like, I go back to the old masters, like Don Rickles. Like he was one of the only people who could like be so insulting and like bring up like your insecurities, your race, nothing was off limits because he just had this way of like the nuance he brought into it. He could insult people, but without being really mean, like without being fully mean-spirited.
Sure, yeah. Patrice O'Neill took the aura of that in the next generation above it and took that ability to just unpants people and like no other.
I loved Patrice O'Neill. He was so unique. Like his voice was just so specific and unique. Talk about finding your voice. He was
the most hated, but like he would make himself the most hated person in the entire room during his stand-up set to the most loved person by the end of it, and you're like, man, I don't know how you can redeem any more of an arc. and stand up like
Like
he did.
he was just so funny as a contrarian. He just loved being a contrarian. His voice would get really high, like, oh no, it's true. He was great. Rest in peace.
Damn right.
All right.
Well, we're getting to the end of this sucker here, right, Wayne? What do we got? We got any other questions that you needed to?
So there was one I did want to ask you. So in your acting career, who was the favorite? Who we can bleep it if you want to, but for me personally, and I will never share it. Who's the favorite actor that you've ever done a scene with?
Do you think he'd bleep someone he'd like to do? I thought you were going to be like,
and
who fucking sucks?
It's no. I say
Pauly Shore. No,
Pauly Shore sucks. Yeah.
No, because it could be offensive by omission, right?
Oh
you think
yeah,
that like fucking Denzel Washington's gonna be like, Dennis, what the fuck?
Like
you big Sandler?
Well, yeah. I mean, Sandler might be like, "Oh, what the fuck? You chose Mateo?" Like
Mateo. He was great. No, Messina. I'm like, I would say. The most exciting and the most fun thing and favorite person I worked with was probably on Superstore, the manager, Glenn, played by Mark McKinney.
Does he really sound like that? God. I love his voice.
No, he does not. He does not.
I love it.
And if you watch the reboot of Kids in the Hall, he still has his regular voice.
Was he in that? I haven't watched that yet.
Oh, yeah. Put it on the list, man. It's great.
Yeah. Oh, damn.
Talk about not missing a beat. Like I loved Mr. Show, and then their revival was good, but it was like, it wasn't quite there. Kids in the Hall, like 30 plus years later, they still got it. It's
and
great.
You said he's a nice guy?
Oh, yeah. No, and this was the best. Like, I wish, it's an NBC sitcom, Superstore. And the 3 episodes I was on, I was so blessed and grateful to be on it. But at the end of the day, they have to cut it into a 21, 22-minute thing. Mm-hmm. But they were all doing great improv. Like the girl Lauren Ash, who plays Dina, was doing some fantastic improv. And Mark McKinney even gave me suggestions of like some improv. So that was like a moment of like, oh, it's one of my heroes, like kind of giving me advice and notes. And that was wonderful. Yeah.
I don't know how they get away with some of the stuff they say on that show.
Oh, it's so
Superstore?
good at that. That's why I like it so much. Yeah, it's an
I
NBC comedy that they really throw the darkness in there sometimes.
Yeah, they do.
I'm really surprised I didn't hear about it until I spoke with you, and like that's like right up my alley for comedy. It's such a good show.
Like the stuff that they came up with in the improv. Like I was like, oh, I wish like it wasn't NBC and it was just like a Christopher Guest movie where they kind of just let the bit play out for a long time. Yeah, but it was just fun to be around. I
did the Universal tour with my wife when we went out there, and Superstore was going on at the time. And when we were on a little ride there, we saw it. It was all open to the lot. It was really cool to see the store, like a little small version of a store, and the sets and all that. It was really cool. And at the same time, saw the truck from Jurassic fucking Park. So that was a good day.
Hell yeah, that's a good day. Oh man, yeah, no, that's. When I walked onto the set, I was like, I feel like I'm in an actual Walmart. It's crazy.
Yeah, that must be your stomping ground. How convenient is it that there is like an old Western set, any type of lot? You walk into those things, you feel like you could be in like a million different worlds. Did you spend a lot of time on the lot when you were out there doing that?
I mean, I spent the day on there, and it was a lot of fun.
But
awesome. They pretty much regulate you to your area, but I do loved it when I had the time to kind of wander around Universal or Paramount. It's just like it's what I always wanted to do as a kid. So it's like, this is it.
I heard Chevy Chase has a huge like a lay of the land out there where he can walk around anywhere. And he takes over.
Oh, and he's obviously such a delight to be around.
Yeah, definitely. Just causing havoc around everybody else out there. God bless him. Imagine you get to that level, you're like, I'm just gonna fuck with people.
Hey man, more power to him. Like people say that, like, hey, it's a bummer that Chevy Chase and Bill Murray are kind of dicks. Like, I don't think so. Let them be dicks. Like, it comes across on screen well. It's like maybe in real life they're a nightmare to be around, but hey, the proof's in the pudding. I'll watch their movies any day of the week.
You get a pass too at a certain level because you didn't hear this back in the day when they were doing like their stuff because they hadn't earned it yet. But like, if you're gonna have Bill Murray in your movie in 2019, he's gonna be a dickhead. Like, I don't know how you could think that's not gonna be the case. How could he not? It's like trying to get Jack Nicholson.
Right, and you not expect some part to not be.
Yeah, we did. We'll definitely keep it anonymous. But we did a show a while ago, and there was we had a person that had to come to the set. I mean, to the show, and they had to pick their time that they had to come to the show. So like very specific. They wanted so many things to go exactly the way that they wanted the show to go. Then they show up late to the show, and all that, and then they get you know. But the fact that they're talented trumps all, and you're like, man, that's how it goes when you get talent. You can fuck around.
Yeah, if you get the fuck you money.
Exactly. Yes. Once you get fuck you money, different confidence level.
People will excuse certain aggravating behaviors. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they sure fucking will. All right, well, let's wrap this sucker up. So we had a goddamn great time here, and just remember, everybody, December 14th, Somerville Goddamn Theater variety show. So most of the time, we tell you guys to go to things where people are going to just say very vulgar, terrible things into a microphone, and that's all they're going to do. And in the middle of it, the microphone might kick out, might fall to the ground. This is variety. It's going to have all kinds of shit there. It's going to have sketch comedy. It's going to have improv. You're going to see so much stuff that you're not even going to know what to do with your fascination muscles. They're going to be fucking blowing out of your mind like you're doing fascination steroids. But anyways, go check it out December 14th because it's been a worthy step.
Wait a minute. Are you available for advertisements? Because that was amazing.
Right?
I don't know why I didn't hire you to advertise my show.
Free every time for you because I want a ticket to this show and I need to get my I'm going to lose you when I say fascination boner, but
hey, it's the human body. It happens. No, it's going to be fun. It's just a variety show. It's going to be live stand-up, so there will be, who knows whether it be vulgar or not, but be a mix of stuff, and it's pay what you can, and it's in the basement. It's in the micro cinema.
Oh, that's incredible. Would you call it a worthy step in the quest for fucking laughs?
Yeah, hell yeah. Good night, everybody.